The Nets. There's a
Yeah.
lot of good basketball players on the Nets.
Mhm.
A lot of good basketball players with making a lot of tradable money. There's a lot of tradable contracts on this squad. And I want to play. We played a round of would you make that trade yesterday with Herb Jones, which I would. But there's guys on this Nets team that I think would also make this team better. The first of which is what you said, Cam Johnson. Like he is, I mean, what's he's making
I
22
believe he's
million,
how many?
right? 22 and a half million right now.
Yeah, I think the contract wasn't it like I thought I heard somewhere it was like 4 years and 57 million. No, that was Herb Jones. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm
No,
getting
that's
them
a guy.
mixed up.
I got it right in front of me. I can give it to you right now. His deal is for 4 years, 94 and a half.
It's a steal.
It's a
Oh my gosh,
steal.
that's a steal. Yeah. That's the for those that are keeping score, that's about the contract Jaren Jackson Jr. is on right now. If you want to talk about like best bang for your buck in the NBA, that Jaren Jackson Jr. contract he signed after 3 years of
Mhm.
injuries, I mean, just it's and he's going to make $40 million this offseason. But yeah, Cam Johnson, I think he's the ticket. I mean, he's the one that I think I'm in on the most.
Yeah.
I would I would call him option A and then Herb Jones option B. I think
Okay.
that's the reason why the Herb Jones thing is out there. It's just trying to keep multiple options open. I like Cam Jones. I mean, Cam, we're gonna mash them together, make them Cam Jones. No, uh,
Cam Jones sounds like a baseball player.
to me, it's like they're kind of opposites. They've both got the great frame for an NBA player.
Yes.
Herb Jones is going to make his impact more on the defensive end, and Cam's going to make it more on the offensive end. And when I'm thinking about what I want with Ja and in this offense and as many open shots as we generate, I lean towards Cam Johnson. That's the one I would rather have. And so the problem with Cam Johnson is I think, listen, he's a 6'8" wing that's a career 40% three-point shooter. Like the price of the brick is going up.
Yep. Well, and
And
here's what he's making over the next 3 years too.
so you get him for 3 years.
Yep.
Or at least 2.5 before you try to re-sign him. And
Yep.
so I like that. I don't like rentals. I don't like,
I don't like Reynolds either.
going for it. I don't want Jimmy Butler. I want the guy that comes in here and we know we've got 2 to 3 years with him. He's young. He fits the timeline of our core, and somebody you would re-sign because this window is open officially. I mean, I said it last year, but last year was like you started opening. It's wide open right now, and it's going to go for 5 to 7 years. So I want somebody that sticks with it because I
Yeah.
value continuity. And so Cam Johnson is A1 for me. I just worry that the price is going to get too high.
That's okay. So that's the only worry that I have because this it seems like he might. I mean, God, I feel like we could go ask anybody that's clicked into their NBA team out there and be like, "Hey, who's the number one guy that you?" I feel like Cam Johnson is at the top of a lot of people's names. You
Right.
know, like
It's
yeah, I feel
because he's got that great the best asset you can have in your game is to be a great shooter.
yep,
That's the reason why Luke Kennard will be valued at the trade deadline because nobody has enough shooting
yeah.
ever.
Which I mean, and that you look at the Grizzlies books, you can get to 20. How much you can get to 23 million
Yeah.
pretty easy. Like that's
Yeah. I mean, that's you can make that money work very easily.
very very
Because
easy.
yeah, I mean Luke Kennard's making what 10 and a half,
10 and a
11. And
half.
so you if they're wanting expirings, which is typically what tanking teams or rebuilding teams want is they want expirings and build it themselves. That's when you talk about a
Luke,
Santi
Santi, Jake.
and a Jake LaRavia are both expiring.
Yep.
Um, and I tell you what, I would have to pour one out to see my boy playing for Brooklyn.
Just send Jake and Z just both up there in their old jerseys and be bad.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't. I never felt bad for Zaire, but I feel bad for Jake.
Man, oh well, see, here we go. We got cut straight from the horse's mouth.
Yeah,
Doesn't want him.
yeah. Luke Kennard is only a asset to. He's like Buddy Hield light. You know what I'm saying?
Buddy Hill
Like
White. Sorry.
Yeah, but white Buddy Hield.
White Buddy
Um,
Hield.
it's just he's not a guy you build around, but he's a guy that you add to try to get you over the hump because they are just elite shooters.
Yeah. Okay. So let's say hypothetical. We would make this trade. We would make that trade. Hypothetical. Let's say the Warriors come in here. I know that they need to make a move. Let's say they come in and
Luke
they get
Kennard
Kim.
would make a lot of sense for the Warriors.
I'm not talking about Luke Kennard. I'm talking about
I know. It just you brought up the Warriors.
you're just putting it out there. I'm talking about say they come in and they get Cam Johnson. They're like, we want him. And they kind of screw us. And the Nets are like, hey, I know this was your option A. Here's a trade package of Dorian Finney-Smith and Dennis Schroeder. What do you think of that?
I
Would you
don't
make
love
that
it.
trade?
Depends on what you get,
Yeah.
what you get back. I don't really think about contracts. I just want the better players. Like
Yeah.
the front office can make the money work, whatever you got to do. But Dennis Schroeder, I feel like both of these guys, Dorian Finney-Smith going back to his days at Dallas, and Schroeder when he's been wherever, Los Angeles,
yeah.
Oklahoma City, wherever.
Atlanta.
They're on the short list of Grizz killers, especially Schroeder probably has the single best game as a Grizzlies opponent this year.
No doubt.
I mean, he was amazing in one of
Yeah.
those wins. And I feel like we get an outsized appreciation of Dennis Schroeder based on that game. Because I can be honest with you, nobody in this chat or watching this show has watched outside of My Holy King here, has watched a Brooklyn game this year outside of the ones that the Grizzlies have played in. So
facts.
I'm always kind of scared to be like, oh, he killed us. I want him.
Yeah.
Because it could be that that's just the best game. Now, I did look up numbers. Dorian Finney-Smith is shooting a really good percentage from three this year. And so I get it, but it's not the peak. When we're talking about what takes you over the hump, I don't think Dorian Finney-Smith and Dennis Schroeder are going to be the pieces. It's like, okay, now we're ready. Like they just seem like, some more role players in a team full of really good role players.
Yep. Well, and Dorian Finney-Smith, he is, if my mouse will work, he is making, well, not that one. Dang it, Wayno, you messed my thing up. He's making 14. He does have a player option for 13 million. So
okay.
It's like I said, you don't look at contracts because the Grizzlies are in an excellent position right now where they can make a lot of stuff work. They're not hard kept by any of the aprons. They've got the contracts. So they can do a lot. Right. I love your point.
It could be a rental.
But. Yes. And Schroeder is a 13 million expiring. That is
fine. I mean, that consolidates your team after next season.
Yep.
It consolidates some of your depth after next season. But I want to use my depth to get players that go forward. And so when we talk about Herb Jones and we talk about Schroeder and DFS and some other folks, like that's why I consider them options B, C, D, and not option A, which would be, hey, this guy can start for me in a playoff game.
Yep. I think the best, this is those dudes that we're talking about, DFS and Schroeder, there aren't upgrades for what we would have to give up.
Yeah.
And that's the point. And why would you add one thing that I'm really, really about this season is I don't want to bring more people. I don't want more depth right now. I really don't, because we got one of the best benches, if not the best in the league. And I don't want to add to that concoction and make things hard.
Right.
You know?
And that's kind of what DG said here is kind of the exact reason why I'm like, I don't know, because as Grizzlies fans, we're in the weeds. We love these teams. We know we love these guys. We feel like we know these guys. We watch every single game. And so you kind of feel a connection. And I try not to put too much, I try to set that aside when we get to this time of year and try to think about what's best. But it's like Scottie Pippen Jr. is on an amazing contract and he's playing really well.
Really good.
Are you going to ship him out for a year or two of Schroeder or a year of Schroeder? Are you going to give him the minutes over Scottie Pippen Jr.? What does that do with your depth? And I don't know what you've got to give up, but for those two guys, I'm not willing to give up anybody that's not expiring.
Yeah.
It's just, I said this with Rusty on the $2 Sports Show. Like, they're the big name that New Orleans would want back in a Herb Jones deal is Santi Aldama. And are we sure we want to make that trade? I mean, Santi's in a contract year and he's playing great in this offense. And I know Herb Jones is, what he is, but is it which one's is it a vast upgrade?
Uh, Wayno thinks so. With and lots of exclamations. But my thing is, I Wayno wants to chip in. I think that's a good. It's the Grizzlies are in a very interesting situation right now. Is why do you really? Wayno said it earlier. He wouldn't be surprised if we sit tight until the next draft that rolls around. And if the boat doesn't appear to need to be rocked, then why would you rock it? And we haven't even talked about Gigi Jackson and Vince Williams Jr. are coming back soon.
Yeah, and that's
And
the other part. When you talk about losing your depth, I don't know that I'm ready to put folks above them right now. Herb Jones and Vince Williams would clash.
yep,
Uh,
very similar players.
and Herb Jones and Gigi may clash. I mean, they kind of play the same position. So, how do you do that? And if the goal is to play 11, you know, 10 to 11, 9 to 11 dudes, like all three of them won't play.
Yeah,
And
yes.
so I don't really know what you do here. Um, and so I'm kind of the worst thing and the thing that would probably melt down the Grizzlies fans this season, and I don't know if it's this season how it started or maybe that's just where we're at right now, but everybody's so emotional and in their feelings about literally every single thing that happens with this team.
Yeah, God.
Just brace yourselves for the possibility that once again Zach Kleiman does nothing at the trade deadline. And I'm going to tell you right now that that's not the worst outcome that you can. A bad trade is much worse than doing nothing.